I've talked to James Carter several times. On a cell phone, he says he's borrowing from a friend. I'm not sure if that's actually true. Cell phones aren't allowed in prison.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Did you want to ask me some questions or you just want me to tell what happened?
The first few times we talked, it seemed like no matter what I asked, Carter would just end up repeating the same thing, that there was no evidence against him.
There's no evidence. There's no fingerprints, eyewitnesses, no car, no gun, no nothing.
So, what is the evidence against him? Right here, I wish I could let you hear from Robert Hickey, the prosecutor on the case, but the district attorney's office wouldn't let me interview him. Instead, I can have a colleague read some of his statements from the trial transcripts. There wasn't much physical evidence against James Carter. Robert Hickey says this himself in his closing argument to the jury.
As I've told you before, don't expect. There will be no DNA in a drive-by shooting. Rarely fingerprints.
Hickey also doesn't have many strong eyewitnesses. He has a few people who were at the Dr. J's store testify that they maybe saw someone in the car with long hair, which Carter has. So, what does Hickey have? Well, he has one thing many prosecutors have when trying people from Southeast San Diego, especially young black men. He can link James Carter to a gang and then use that link to establish a motive. Here's what Hickey says during the trial.
What you have are the gang members who learn about the crime. It's not a perfect crime to commit a gang drive-by shooting because, as I've said before, a gang crime committed anonymously is committed in vain. You need to get your status and credit for committing the shooting so you can get your respect as a violent and notorious gang member and to check that box for revenge.
For Hickey, it's pretty easy to link Carter to a gang. At the trial, he has police from the gang unit talk about how Carter was a documented gang member and that they found letters and rap lyrics in his room that say he was in a gang. Hickey also asks almost every witness about Carter's tattoos. He has several that say things like BK and NFL, which Hickey says stand for blood killer, and a couple bad words about Lincoln Park. This reminds the jury again and again that Carter was in a gang. And sometimes that's the point.
Moving down the hall, Tim Atkins, as I said, was 23 years in prison for a gang shooting that occurred in L.A.
Michael Samanchik walks down a hallway filled with photos. He's the managing attorney for the California Innocence Project and is showing off cases where clients have been exonerated.
Wendy Cohen actually was one of the students assigned to his case, and she found one of the witnesses that claimed that Tim had done the crime. She found the witness and got her to come in and tell the truth, which was that Tim didn't have anything to do with the murder.
Samanchik isn't representing Carter, but he talked generally about the strategy prosecutors use to link people to gangs.
It doesn't take much to connect a person to a gang. For example, if a suspect or a defendant is seen with a few known gang members and is photographed with known gang members 3 or 4 times on like a street corner in gang territory.
Samanchik says associating someone with a gang makes a strong impression on the jury.
We know that gang evidence gets convictions, and then an expert or a gang expert would get up at trial and testify about all of the bad things that the gang has done. Not necessarily what this individual has done, but this is the kind of things that this gang has done. So then what ends up happening is the jury makes that leap. They think, oh, well, even if the evidence isn't super strong in this case, the defendant is connected to this gang, and this gang has committed all of these other crimes. So if he hasn't done this one, he's probably done another crime at some point. So we can feel comfortable with our conviction here.
So in James Carter's case, did the prosecutor Robert Hickey use the strategy of associating Carter with a gang to make the jury feel more comfortable convicting him? Again, I wanted to ask Hickey about this, but wasn't allowed to talk to him. In the trial, Hickey has several informants testify about the shooting. We'll talk more about police use of informants and the impact that has on a community tomorrow. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.